happens to data privacy and to consumer choice. These platforms know about us more than we know about ourselves. And the reason is because we are cognitively constrained, and they have the big data analytics, artificial intelligence, all these algorithms that can dissect our brain and use all the data from different sources in order to understand who we are, how we think, and then direct our choices. So it started by trying to analyze consumer behavior and making suggestions, but it went way beyond that. These companies are creating a personal user profile. They are linking not only to the platform, but to thousands and millions of other websites in order to get data and then use it. So you might be receiving a free service, but in fact you are paying with your privacy, and this is quite costly. They are monitoring your behavior online, and they are trying to monetize it. And sometimes they are misusing this data, and you all are familiar with the Cambridge Analytica case. And usually it is in the time of scandals that we are exposed to this. But I am sure this is just the tip of the iceberg. And there are many other cases where these companies are misusing your private data. So the issue is that users have limited control over this. You might give consent when you want to enter a website or use a service, but once you do, you have no idea what's done with your data. And this is used not only to understand it, but also to influence consumers' choices, but also political choices and other choices. And essentially it is algorithms that tell us where to park, what to eat, whom to date, and basically they are managing our lives. So for us, algorithmic users, it might be convenient that we don't have to think much, but at the end, we are being misled. And these companies are sometimes misusing their capacities. And in fact, algorithms are very effective in convincing you to pay higher price than you should, in collusion between algorithms. And it's very difficult to put the blame on these algorithms. Do they have really a malicious intent? Can you blame the programmer? They probably don't realize themselves what could be the outcomes of different algorithms doing their work and generating an undesirable result. So the issue is that these companies are going one step further, now trying on the one hand to understand us better. So if you talk about the metaverse, Facebook has now patents for reading brain waves and for interpreting facial movements that are uncontrollable in order to understand you in ways that you cannot. And then they are also developing new ways, new models for monetizing, for advertising. So if we proceed on this trend, in very few years, we will not be realizing what is real and what is not, whether we are talking with a person or with an algorithm. And basically, we will be machine readable, and these machines will take the lead and manipulate us. And the issue is that if it serves the profit-making purpose of these companies, for instance, in the case of Facebook, we want to keep users on the site as long as we can in order to get more advertising money, they will go the extra way to do that. For instance, create divide, inflate arguments, push you to extreme views, to make sure that you will stay a few more seconds on the site. And these are real data showing that about 64% of those who join extremist groups were prompted to do that through these algorithms. And not to mention fake news, that is, well, we're familiar with that. It travels 6 times faster than real news, obviously, because it's more interesting. So what we see is that these companies are using advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., in order to serve their corporate purpose at the expense of society. And regulatory agencies are ill-equipped to deal with this. The main effort so far has been led in the European Union, the GDPR, which probably you are familiar with. It's a very good piece of regulation, but it doesn't solve the problem. So essentially it's supposed to tell companies how to collect data, how to store it, what they can do with it, and provide users with the ability to control this. But when we look more carefully, we realize that most of the fines that were issued through this regulation are focusing on easy, simple, and not important things like collection of data. And the important things are the minority, because it's very difficult to monitor and control this. And also the fines are negligible. So the ratio between the benefit you get from a violation and the fine is about 15 to 1. So this regulation, again, impacts mostly the small companies, the small businesses, entrepreneurs that have to invest much more in designing their system, accounting, etc., legal issues, and it is the big tech firms that now have the advantage. So this regulation provides the big tech firms with an advantage because, first of all, they have the capacity to deal with it, and second, they are using it to gain more dominance. For instance, Google stopped providing essential data to vendors, saying, oh, we are unable to share consumer data with you. Apple used this regulation to restrict the search engine of Facebook, and suddenly 50% market share on their platform moved from Facebook to Apple. So we see how ironic this regulation is in that regard. What happens in the US? Well, the House Judiciary Committee acknowledged that data privacy is a critical challenge. This is the power is measured in data privacy, not in prices. And then you wonder, okay, so what are the recommendations in this 450-page report? None. No recommendation, nothing. They were counting on GDPR because it's extraterritorial. They were hoping that this will be applicable also to American companies that serve European citizens. But the American companies managed quite well with their lobbying and influence to restrict this regulation in the US